Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. We've got a lot of breaking news to discuss, and some of it, the thrust of it, involves you, Michael Cohen. A New York appeals court moments ago denied Donald Trump's bid to block his sentencing on January 10th. Now, this follows Justice Juan Merchan denying Donald Trump's effort to try to derail that sentencing. After Justice Merchan made his ruling, by the way, which on page 10, I believe, basically once again reaffirms that Michael Cohen told the truth.
You know, Ben, what he said on page 10, just to give some clarity, was that based upon the motion by Todd Blanche, counsel for Trump, was that my testimony should be stricken because it's filled with inaccuracies, innuendos, lies, fabrications, and so on. Where Merchan then turned around and said, I sat feet away from the man for approximately 1 full week and did not find, nor did the jury find, that the information that Mr. Cohen provided was inaccurate and it was not supported by either corroborating testimony of others or documentary evidence, and that Michael Cohen, in his opinion, told the truth.
So then Donald Trump rushed to the Appellate Division, which is his next move. You know he's going to eventually try to go to the Supreme Court very soon. And he's trying to desperately stop this sentencing from taking place on Friday. Now, Justice Merchan had previously said in that same order that you ruled, Michael, that you just read, Michael Cohen, that he was not inclined to order Trump to actually serve hard prison time. He was going to use a procedural thing that basically says, look,
unconditional dismissal.
So that means that Donald Trump is declared a felon, but there are no conditions attached to that. And then it becomes a final judgment in the sense that Donald Trump becomes officially, in the eyes of the law, a convicted felon, even though he was convicted of felonies by a jury. So that took place, but this converts it to a final judgment. Now, I think Justice Merchan recognized, and we're seeing it now, we can debate if Merchan made the right move or not by doing this unconditional discharge. But I think he knew that if he did anything else, Trump would run to the Appellate Division, run to the Supreme Court, and then try to claim that Merchan was abusing his discretion in ordering a sentence or some conditions attached, and would that have backfired and derailed the sentencing at all from taking place. And at least in my opinion, it's clear Merchan wants to do this sentencing. So anyway, Donald Trump rushes to the Appellate Division, and moments before we started the show, they made the following ruling. Expedited ruling on Trump's Article 78 petition and immediate stay of any further criminal proceedings in the Supreme Court pending resolution in the petition has come before the Appellate Division, and they made the ruling. You see on page 2 that after consideration of the papers submitted and the extensive oral argument, movant Donald Trump's application for an interim stay is denied. And notice the language they use there to refer to Donald Trump, movant. In other words, you're just another litigant. You're a criminal defendant. It's not president-elect. It's not soon to be president. Movant, filed, rejected. Cohen, this involves you, sir. So your reaction here, your insight is invaluable.
Well, look, you know, you and I have spoken about this, and we once again agree, but we disagree. I don't believe, and you know, a lot of people are like, oh, Cohen's now bending a knee and so on. I'm bending no fucking knees. Let me be very clear about what my position is. I believe that unless there is accountability, so I'm not ecstatic about, I think it was the judicious and the appropriate ruling under the circumstances. And I'm talking about the decision of Judge Juan Merchan in this hush money case. But the part where you have unconditional dismissal, to be honest with you, I didn't even know what it fucking meant. I'm sitting there and I'm saying, I've never in my life heard of something like this. You go to trial, 6 weeks, you have a jury impaneled, you spend a fortune of money as the state, you bring 22 witnesses, myself included, for over 48 hours on the stand. And after a jury of 12 come back with a determination of guilt, and I get it, Trump won the election, don't get me wrong, I fully understand it in the Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity, unconditional dismissal. There will be no incarceration, there will be no probation, there is no accountability. So if there's no accountability for a crime, what's the point? That's the problem that I have here. You know, Ben, it's like being a kid and your mom has one of those Fabergé eggs, a family heirloom that your great-grandmother somehow managed to smuggle out of the old country. And whatever the hell, for whatever reason, you're a sick human being, you take a baseball bat and you decide to smash it. Why? I don't know, because it's there. And instead of being punished, instead of being held accountable, they go out and they buy you a car. And you're like, none of this makes any sense. That's the way I see the way this thing handled. I blame for this Alvin Bragg for not bringing this case. And I've said it on this show, literally going back almost a year. I've constantly said it. This case needed, like Mark Pomerantz, the lawyer that was on the case, leading the case under Cy Vance, the former DA, this case needed to have been brought 1 year earlier. Had it been brought a year earlier, we would not be even engaging in this conversation. No delay would have been, justice delayed is justice denied. You've heard me say it 100 times. Thanks, Shai. You've heard me say it 1,000 times. That's what happened here. And so what's the big, stiffy that you get here? You get to call him the felon president? Who gives a shit? He doesn't care. He's not reaping any of the repercussions. It's not affecting him and his ability to be president, or to have a bank account, or to lose your credit cards like all felons do, or your inability to get loans. They're doing deals all over the world. Trump made $3 billion since becoming president-elect. So my question is, what the fuck? What's the point to turn around and to have this political charade continue, this political spectacle continue? And let me also say this, because I see like a few people saying, oh, Trump cares, Trump cares. This is, number one, it's not about whether Trump cares or he doesn't. Number two, I know him better than you do. He only cares, not because he cares that you call him a felon. He doesn't give a shit what anybody calls him. It's simply because he's not getting his way. It's like a petulant child kicking and screaming at the table. You're like, why are they kicking and screaming? I got you the pasta that you wanted. You're watching the television show that you want. What are you kicking and screaming? Just because they want to kick and scream. That's what's going on here. Yes, he is a fragile ego, but that's not the point. He wants it because he wants to win. He wants to say that he's right. Even if he knows that he's wrong, it doesn't matter. He wants to be able to say that he's right. Very much like what he's doing right now with the Jack Smith, the two cases with Jack Smith. And I blame Merrick Garland for that. Ben, you've heard me say it 100 times. Merrick Garland took way too long in terms of bringing on special counsel Jack Smith. Had he brought him on expeditiously, those two cases wouldn't be lost either. And there would be accountability. But if there's no accountability, what are we doing? What are we wasting our time for?
When you say political spectacle with regards to the proceedings, what do you mean by that, Michael?
What I'm talking about is, look, every every time that there's a motion, every time there's a decision, every time there's a lawsuit, there's a decision, there's an opinion, there's an appeal, a writ of certiorari, everybody's talking about it. And everybody, you get 50 different pundits coming on television for days upon days upon days. And they're all giving their opinion. Oh, it should go on. It shouldn't go on. It's a right move. It's a wrong move. Here's the this, here's that. It becomes this political spectacle where Donald Trump then uses it in order to show that he is the victim yet again of another witch hunt. And you and I and so many others are saying this isn't a witch hunt. This was a legitimate case brought by the Manhattan DA, albeit way too fucking late, by the way. Way too fucking late. And now all of a sudden, this is what our news cycle is all about. The fact that Donald Trump was found guilty on 34 counts by 12 independent jurors who will never see a day of incarceration, as I did, some of which was predicated on the same claim. He'll never see the inside of a jail cell, nor will he even see probation. Because not only did I get probation, I got home confinement as well, but I got 3 years of supervised release. Trump will see none of this. So when people say to you that we have different systems of justice for different people, you better bet your bottom dollar that that's true. We do. There's you and me. By the way, Ben, if you were in the situation that Trump is and you weren't president or president-elect, your ass would already be in jail, as would any one of our viewers. That's a fact, as I was. And the fact that he's able to escape because he did the impossible, he got the nomination despite being impeached twice, civil assault charge, 34 counts of criminal liability. You had 3 additional indictments, possibly a 4th with the superseding indictment, and on, manages to get the nomination for the Republican Party and then manages to turn that into an electoral win. He will never see accountability. So I think the whole thing is just stupid.
Well, here's the thing. If there is no sentencing that takes place, if the proceeding gets stayed and delayed, Trump could make the argument that, well, look, there was not a final judgment. He wouldn't say it that way. He would say, oh, no, they found me, no responsibility. But why, when you don't have to give him that ability, which would still be a win for him? Yes, there's a spectacle that engulfs everything Trump, which I think we should talk about in a little bit as well with that press conference today. And what I've been saying internally within the network, I've been saying WMD, weapon of mass distraction. He knows that prices are not going down. He knows he's not going to be able to resolve what's going on, the unlawful invasion of Ukraine like he promised. He knows that the stock market is looking like it's going to go down under him. He knows his tariffs are going to be a disaster. Weapon of mass distraction. WMD, go out, talk about invading this country, invading that country, say all of these things. And I'm with you, Cohen, to a certain extent. There's a spectacle, there's a distraction that comes along with these court cases, which he creates, and that sometimes takes away attention from what we also can and should be focused on, which is he's an utter failure. He's a horrible leader. He's going to lead the country in an awful direction. He's going to have a horrible impact on people's lives. I think one of the issues were a lot of the Trump voters and some of these other Americans, the 49% of voters who ended up voting for Trump in their own minds. And it's shocking to me, said, you know what? Moral character doesn't matter. Actual leadership abilities don't matter. I'm pissed. And Trump is speaking to the fact that I'm pissed. And no one really has a good argument other than Trump is bad. Trump is horrible. Trump is the worst. You're not explaining to me how Trump is actually the reason that I'm pissed. And it's not because migrants are eating cats and dogs. It's not because of the transgender volleyball player from San Jose State. It's because Trump added $8 trillion of debt. It's because Trump mishandled COVID. It's because Trump mishandled foreign policy. It's because Trump is weak and a horrible loser. So yes, he wants WMD, weapon of mass distraction. But also, Cohen, though, there's still a part of me, a big part of me, that says, why give him a win this Friday? Just do the sentencing.
Again, I don't call it. Yeah, but I don't call it a win, right? The win is
already. He will call it a win.
He's already called it a win. The same way he's already said that the two cases by Jack Smith have been dismissed, that they won in court. That's not what happened at all. What he does is he whitewashes history to benefit his narrative. And he will do the same with this, regardless of whether there is a sentencing or there isn't. My point is, if there is no accountability, I don't see the reason for this case to go forward at all. Judge Merchan should have taken the position, 12 jurors determined that you were guilty, and this is what the sentence is going to be. Suspend the sentence for 4 years. Suspend it for whatever it might be. Give him 1 day of incarceration, just 1 day, right? So that you know that there is some form of accountability. There is no accountability, and I truly believe that as a direct result, the case is stupid, and it makes absolutely no sense to me. That's just, I'm speaking from a pragmatic standpoint. Yes, it gives everybody a big stiffy, assuming you have a stiffy, so that you could sit there and say, yeah, now we can call him the felon president. Come on. At some point in time, enough is enough. And by the way, we have to also, Ben, because it's something that we are definitive on, which is there's no innuendo here on Political Beatdown. There's no opinion on Midas Touch Network. What we give to you are facts. Now, from the facts, we'll give you our opinion onto the facts, but they are always predicated on facts. Let me say, because a lot of people like Trump's a loser and so. No, he's not. Oh no, he's not. Again, reality. We all must live in reality. Let's start with the very first fact that all of us should agree on. First thing in the morning, the sun rises. Yes, that's a fact. At nighttime, the sun sets. Yes, that's a fact. On January 20th, Trump will be in the Capitol with his hand on that 6999 Trumpy Bible, being sworn in as the 47th president of the United States. Yes, that's a fact. All right. Is he a loser? No. The guy managed to pull off something that was a 1 in a billion odds. Not only has he managed to do that, they have also managed to increase their net worth by $3 billion since he became president-elect. You now have Don Jr. parading around with a drug addict, right, with a convicted drug addict or drug dealer there in Denmark, in Finland, in Greenland, meeting up with people, turning around and saying, yeah, we're MAGA, we're MAGA. They're handing out red MAGA hats. I mean, are you as concerned about this group of individuals that Trump has nominated for positions that are utterly unqualified for it, and the only qualification is the fact that they have pledged fealty to the king? Which kind of brings me to something. If, Ben, you saw the MAGA press conference that they had today at Mar-a-Lago.
I want to talk about the press conference.
Can I show you one photo before we go to the press conference?
Yeah.
I sent it to Jeremy. Jeremy, can you put it up for a quick second? Does something in this picture offend you as an American? I'll tell you what offends me is that crest in between the two American flags. Crest is symbolic of a royal family, something that you will see, or a dictator. France, right? Something you would see in North Korea, or in Saudi Arabia, or in China. Presidents of the United States don't have family crests. They don't have crests that actually were taken from somebody else's family, but they don't have royal crests. That's my only, when I saw that, I was saying to myself, holy crap, right? I mean, it was done on purpose. It's in order to show we're bigger than you, we're better than you, right? And that this is the way that he intends to run the next 4 years of our lives.
You know, I think that's such an important point, and I didn't pick that up in the recap I did on the press conference, and people should watch that if you can. I did a recap. I don't show any of his video or audio anymore. I know you don't want to see or hear it, but I explain what happens, and if you want to watch it on your own time, you could watch him. I'm just not playing it on the videos that I'm a part of, at least. But you know, it's a great point, and also, again, what I've been saying is WMD. Weapon of mass distraction. And I think that what we have to be focused on is being focused. And I do think that some, as a lawyer, as deserving as Donald Trump is to being held accountable, what you're hitting on is an important point, though. Those lawsuits and those cases allow him to play the victim and stay on message as a victim. What we need to focus is that Trump has made victims of the American people with his policies and with his lack of leadership. We have to draw people's attention to the fact that it's Donald Trump's lack of leadership, his failure as a business person, his lack of understanding of things. He's the reason that there was inflation. The $8 trillion in debt, that's what caused inflation. That's not me saying that either. Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis said that, okay? Donald Trump's the reason that
what the hell does Ron DeSanctimonious know, Ben? Quite frankly, he doesn't know. Quite frankly, he doesn't know shit.
We'll talk about that and more. I want to remind people, though, before we take our first ad break. So after Political Beatdown ends, Michael Cohen and I will be holding a meeting for our patrons at patreon.com/Political Beatdown. So if you ever wanted to meet Michael Cohen virtually on a Zoom meeting, ask him any questions, go to patreon.com/Political Beatdown. As soon as the show ends, there's a secret Zoom link to join that meeting, and we don't have outside investors. So it's a fun way for you to meet Cohen, and it helps grow this programming and grow the network. Let's take our first quick break of the show.
I found a valuable tool that gives me insights to create a healthy metabolism for my body. And it's managed to improve other aspects of my life as well. And it's called Lumen. So what's Lumen? Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs, and it gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, your workouts, your sleep, and even stress management. Look, let me tell you how Lumen works. All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for the day that's based on your measurements. And you can also breathe into it before or after workouts and meals so that you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time. And Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game. Look, I'm not a kid anymore. My metabolism, it's not as fast as it used to be. Staying healthy and fit, it's much harder. So anything that I can do to gain an advantage, I'm interested. And here's why. So your metabolism, it's your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food you eat into fuel that keeps you going. And because your metabolism is at the center of everything that your body does, optimal metabolic health, it translates to a bunch of benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, better sleep, and much more. Lumen gives you recommendations to improve your metabolic health.
To the women out there, it also helps you track your cycle as well as the onset of menopause, and it'll help you adjust your recommendation to keep your metabolism healthy through hormonal shifts so that you can keep your energy and stave off cravings. So my friends, right now, take the next step to improving your health and go to lumen.me/beat to get 20% off your Lumen. So that's LUMEN.me/beat for 20% off your purchase. And thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode.
We're back. Michael Cohen, as I said, after this episode ends, patreon.com/political beatdown, where you can meet Michael Cohen and I in a secret Zoom link meeting. Ask Michael Cohen any questions that you may have. Thank you to our pro-democracy sponsors, by the way. They keep this show afloat. We don't take outside investors here at the Midas Touch Network, and some great products as well. The discount codes are in the description. Also, if you can subscribe to Michael Cohen's YouTube channel, at The Michael Cohen Show, some great content there. I'd love to get that channel as close as we
Ben,
can.
We're almost at 250,000 subscribers. I'm 7,000 shy. So basically, with just the people that are with us today on Political Beatdown, if you haven't already, we could be right there at 250. Then we're going for 500,000 because the goal, like here on Political Beatdown, like with the Midas Touch Network, how many subscribers now, Ben? 3.4 million, 3.5 million?
3.5, but who's counting?
3.5 million, but who's counting is right. We need to build the community so that if and when issues go south, when all of this starts, post January 20th, our community is so big that there is no way to stop the inevitable, which is all about 2026. And we're going to talk about that too, because it's 2026 that's the real power here. That if everything goes wrong and we're not getting Republican senators or members of the House to do the right thing in order to protect our democratic republic, that's the time that we oust them. And that's the time that we put people in who are like-minded to you and I.
I want to continue this theme that we were saying before the break of WMDs, weapons of mass distraction. And I think it's so important that we learn the lessons and where mistakes may have been made in coverage of Donald Trump and how you deal and treat him. I like some of the Democrats' plans, which is, look, Trump, you made all of these promises in the campaign to unions and on healthcare and all of these, and all of these different things about automation on the docks. Okay, why don't we call your bluff? And where those proposals are actually lies that Donald Trump made to get the votes of working class people, why don't we implement that? Why don't we show and expose that this was all a lie when Republicans block these things? What Trump is trying to distract from is that his presidency is certainly going to be an utter failure. He's a bad leader. He has bankrupted a lot of things in the past, including, by the way, some of the worst days in American history, although the country had a collective amnesia to it, was during the first Trump administration. Him saying like a miracle COVID was going to go away and was never going to hit our shores. Can you imagine if anybody else had said that? Donald Trump was the person who freed the 5,000 Taliban prisoners who then took over Afghanistan. Trump invited the Taliban to Camp David on September 11th. Trump added $8 trillion of debt. Donald Trump made all of these promises about inflation, about making housing affordable. He made all of these promises to voters on a myriad of issues, that prices were going to go down instantaneously. The price of eggs were going to be so low, you were never going to know what to do with it. You'd all be able to afford housing. All of these jobs would be available to American workers right away. He'd have this manufacturing boom, even though there was a manufacturing boom under President Biden. But I just think, Cohen, when we cover these press conferences, yes, I want to talk about what he's saying. Obviously, he has the toolkit with the power of the United States of America and the fact that the power of the presidency is the most powerful position in the world. But also, it's my view that we have to also stay laser focused on what he wants to distract us from. And that's his broken promises.
Yeah. So one of the things during today's press conference, he already laid the foundation for the blame. And of course, it's that the Biden and the administration, they're not doing what they said that they were going to do. This is all according to Trump. They're not doing what they said that they were going to do, a smooth and an easy transition. All right. In fact, he says the opposite, that they have now passed regulations and executive orders that are going to hinder his administration's advancement of their policy. So he's already laying the blame for if and when, as a result of tariffs coming in or whatever it might be, that there is a decrease in the market or prices start going up. He's not able to get the price of gasoline down. He's not able to get your groceries down. He's going to blame it all on the on the Biden administration. And the saddest part is that MAGA, no matter what, will never get off of that fact. They will continue to fight you day in and day out, saying the only reason that Trump is not able to do this is because Joe Biden passed regulation before leaving with 2 weeks left that hindered Trump's advance with his agenda, and it's your fault. No matter how hard you try to say that's just not true, it doesn't matter to them. We are in such a divide right now, and I don't know how to break the MAGA spell. My hope is that what we are able to do in 2026 is to demonstrate, and I believe the only way that Democrats will be able and successful to retake the House and the Senate, and possibly in 2028, the White House, is if in fact everything goes to shit and we continue to grassroots lobby, because the Democrats did a shit job in this campaign, in going to local communities to understand what the issues are. Trump saw it immediately. I don't know how, but he did. He saw it, and he literally won an election on 3 words: gasoline and groceries. There was no retort by this group of individuals that were surrounding Kamala Harris to that bumper sticker. And that's the problem. We need to start grassroots organizations all over the place to ensure that when local problems come up that are affected by the Trump administration's failures, that we bring it to their attention. Now, I do want to turn around and say one last thing, Ben, before I guess we go on to the next area. What if hypothetically, and I've heard this from so many people, so many pundits are saying, one of the reasons that Trump won is because our government, our politicians, our Department of Justice, they're all fucking corrupt. They're all no good. It's all broken, just like our immigration. Everything is broken. Maybe what we need is a whole group of disruptors, people who have no connection whatsoever to the job that they are being asked or tasked to handle. Maybe because they're successful in their business, let's say, which is finance, that they are also going to be successful in running the FBI or running the Navy or running whatever it might be, Secretary of Transportation or the Department of Education or whatever. Maybe it's what we need, a group of disruptors who aren't beholden, for example, to big business, big pharma, etc. Maybe that's what we need. And that's actually a pretty decent argument, because I think everybody will acknowledge that our government is fractured and there's a lot of work that needs to be done in order to correct it. Fuck, it's what my entire second book, Revenge, is about. How Donald Trump, through his administration, weaponized the Department of Justice against his critics. You see what I'm trying to say here? This is an interesting dynamic that's now coming out of mainstream and cable news media. And I think it's extremely interesting as a perspective. And it's only one that we will know the truth after January 20th. Thanks.
You know, to me, I think the answer may be far simpler. I think it goes back to focusing on the fact that for America, it's you have to listen to Americans, you know, and I understand that our audience, and I feel this way personally as well, with all of the wrongs that Donald Trump did, with being found liable for sexual assault, with the criminal conviction on 34 felony counts, with the bankruptcies, with the business fraud, with him on audio recordings, bragging about grabbing women by their genitals, with all of that stuff, to me, that's disqualifying. I think we have to.
And I'm so sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. While you think it's disqualifying, again, facts matter. It is not disqualifying. There's a group of also some of our brigaders, right? There's some of our brigaders that are saying, well, if he's found out to be a felon, doesn't that preclude him from being president of the United States? No, it does not. There is no constitutional prohibition for a felon being president. In fact, if he was incarcerated, he would actually make the federal correctional institution becomes the White House. That's how crazy this shit is. But whether we think that Trump is or is not suited to be president, whether he's not competent to be or not be president, on January 20th, he is going to be president of the United States. And I think it's really incumbent upon us, because I think Ben and Midas Touch Network and all of the various assets like Political Beatdown, from us, you're going to get the facts. And we all need to embrace the facts, whether you like it or you don't like it. I mean, I hear there's some comments coming in, Michael's for big pharma. No, you got to pay attention when we're speaking. Paying attention is important. What I said was, our politicians are in bed with big pharma and big tech and big business. Why? Because they fund their campaigns. All right. And that's why we have such a fracture in government. That's what Donald Trump used in order to succeed in this election. Sorry, Ben.
No. But we were making a similar point. I was going to say, I wasn't even talking about constitutionally disqualified. Unfortunately, he was not constitutionally disqualified. Again, although my opinion was that he should have been. I'm talking about morally. I'm talking about, to me, moral character matters the same way we would not want a CEO or even a leader of our social organizations that we are community organizations to behave like the way Donald Trump does. But my point is that outside of the kind of core MAGA base, there's this whole other group of voters who felt, you can tell me anything about this guy. You can tell me he shot someone on Fifth Avenue. You can tell me anything. But I am pissed off right now, and I am being screwed. And Donald Trump is telling me that I am being screwed by immigrants and by transgender people. And Vice President Kamala Harris is talking about economic opportunity zone or something. And I don't understand what that means. I need to blame someone because I am pissed. And Trump is telling me who I can blame. And then he's making a bunch of promises that I'm going to get rich really quickly. And Vice President Kamala Harris is talking about opportunity economies and things I I can't grasp it. So, Cohen, the point that I'm making is that when Donald Trump is out there doing his WMD, his weapon of mass distraction, and he's saying, oh, I'm going to turn the Gulf of Mexico into the Gulf of America, right? Rather than us making a video about that, what we should make a video about is exactly what Democratic Congresswoman Veronica Escobar says. Cool. How does that lower costs? Cool. How does that lower inflation? Cool. How is that going to lead to Americans getting housing? Cool. How are you going to lower the price of eggs and groceries? Cool. How are you getting American jobs? Oh, you're just trying to distract me with this crap because you are a liar. You lied to the American people to get their vote. And you know who was actually eating not the cats and dogs, but your lunch money? The billionaires like Donald Trump who party in 1,000-foot yachts, who have yachts on yachts on yachts, jets on jets on jets, and who party in Mar-a-Lago and laugh at you. They tricked you. They lied to you. And why are the prices higher? Price gouging by the billionaires, by the oligarchs. Why is this happening to you? It's the billionaires and the decamillionaires who are doing this to you. That's the winning message. It's right there. And don't get distracted. We can report, he's so crazy, he's so crazy, he's so crazy. But it's a WMD. It's a weapon of mass distraction. We still got a lot to cover on this episode. A reminder, Michael Cohen and I will be in a Zoom meeting. The secret link is on patreon.com/political beatdown. As soon as this ends, we'll open up that Zoom chat about 2 minutes later. Join right away. We're so excited to see you. Let's take our last break of the show.
After 30 years of marriage, I think the only arguments I've ever had with my wife are always centered around what we're going to have for dinner, especially when I want to eat healthier. And simplifying your meal routine with Cook Unity, it frees up both time and energy for your other goals. So reset your routine with Cook Unity for an endless variety of vibrant, healthy meals made by award-winning chefs. And the chefs that you see on TV and in these 5-star kitchens, they're the chefs who craft each small batch of meal with you in mind. And their products, they're just made from local, in-season ingredients and fresh, not frozen. And they're delivered directly to your door, all at a fraction of the cost and the time. So go to cookunity.com/beat or enter code BEAT before checkout for 50% off your first week. Look, let me say this. My list of my 2 favorite selections, the first one is a honey roasted pork rice bowl with bok choy and soy egg. It's freaking unbelievable. And then my staple go-to, it's the Larry and Mark Forgione spicy rigatoni a la vodka. I mean, unbelievable. And if your mouth isn't watering right now, maybe it will when I tell you that it is a mere 680 calories of deliciousness. And the variety of chef-prepared meals, it makes personalization easy, and it takes the stress out of your meal planning. So browse the menu by either protein, chef, cuisine, or your dietary need to personalize your own menu and find your new favorites. And remember this, that the menus, they're updated weekly, and new chefs are always joining the team so that your mealtime will never be boring. And there's no cleanup or meal prep. There's no planning. Your meals, they're just simply delivered, fully cooked, where you just heat them in as little as 5 minutes. With flexible, commitment-free subscriptions, you skip deliveries, pause, or you could even cancel any time. So enjoy restaurant-quality meals for a fraction of the price, with subscriptions starting as low as $11 a meal. You hear that? $11 a meal. So reset your routine with convenient, mouth-watering meals crafted with local ingredients by award-winning chefs. Go right now to cookunity.com/beat or enter code BEAT before checkout for 50% off your first week. That's 50% off your first week by using code BEAT or going to Cook Unity, that's COOKUNITY.com/beat. And thank you, Cook Unity, for supporting the show.
Thank you to the pro-democracy sponsors. Cohen,
I got that spicy rigatoni in the fridge right now.
I know you tell me about it all the time. And if you want to ask Cohen about what he's having for dinner tonight, patreon.com/political beatdown is the perfect place to ask Cohen about really anything you want to ask. There's no questions that are off limits. Cohen, I want to show you this headline as well from the New York Post. Again, weapon of mass distraction. What are they trying to distract us from? What is Trump trying to distract us from? You can follow people in Trump's inner circles and figure it out. So this is from the New York Post. This was an op-ed that was published 3 days ago. Joe Biden's fiscal time bomb is set to explode just in time for Trump to take office. So Charles
notice, by the way, notice it's got 2 times in there. Doesn't even make sense. Talk about shitty review, right? Explode just in time for Trump to take office. Way to go, Charlie Gasparino.
Cohen, so funny. You pick up, like, even seeing the seal behind that. I bet you're really good at those games where they're what's off with the photo.
I don't want to brag, but I use Candy Crush as a means of meditation, because it just completely distracts you from the world when you're making the combinations and so on. I think I have the highest score in the world. I'm at like 17,130 on different levels that I have passed so far. I mean, 17,000. Yeah, I'm pretty good at these stupid games.
The ones though where it's like which item is like find like the double items, or those games in the arcades where you click.
Sure.
Anyway, yes, it says time twice. I guess that's one of the points that we're making. But the broader point here is that this is a Murdoch paper. Gasparino is one of their kind of business guys there, and he's looking at the 10-year yield on the bond market, and he's seeing a lot of signs that are not being picked up in the kind of short-term stock market, day-to-day trading, which, by the way, has been fairly volatile actually since the election, as Donald Trump makes all of these posts and the market tries to figure out if Trump actually does the things he says he's going to do, it's going to be an economic disaster. So we had like 10 days in a row 2 weeks ago of the stock market going down, which is like the first time it's happened since 1974. And that's because of Trump's behavior. But what the bond market is pricing in as well are Trump's tariffs, Trump's deportations, the deficit growing by trillions of dollars that's not going to be paid for, the fact that the tax cuts to billionaires are not going to be paid for, volatility. And so the 10-year is trying to account for that. But notice what they're doing here as well. You have Biden, whose economy never lost jobs once when Biden was in office. The GDP was setting records. There was oil drilling at all-time highs. We were energy independent for the first time. 16.1 million jobs created. He's still focused on climate change while there was actual drill baby drill going on. It's just there's actually an abundance of supply of oil right now, so much so that actually the gas and oil companies want to limit the supply so they can charge more and inflate the demand. They actually don't want more drilling. No one tells you that. But oil and drilling companies have too much oil right now, and they want less supply so that they can artificially increase their prices. That's actually what they're trying to work on to happen now. But you also had unemployment at all-time lows, record lows, and then the stock market was up 55 to 60%. So there's a record there, right? And so Trump tried to take credit for Biden's record, And now what they're trying to do already is blame Biden for Trump's failures. So essentially, Trump just wants to take credit for what the other guy, what Biden's doing in office, and then blame his own failures on it. And Cohen, this is why, though, WMD, weapon of mass distraction, recognize what their hustle is here. They want you to focus on Greenland, Don Jr. drama, him threatening Canada, Hannibal Lecter, because he's going to screw you. That's what he's doing.
Ben, I'll tell you, I'm a little bit concerned about something different than all of this idle conversation. Is what if actually we decide to take the Panama Canal? You're already hearing, which Trump was talking about at Mar-a-Lago, that if in fact, right, which will become, instead of Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America. He's also turned around and said that he wants all of the hostages released before he ends up being sworn in, or there's going to be hell to pay. Now, a journalist went ahead and asked a pretty astute question, probably the same question I would ask if I was given an opportunity. What does that mean, that there's going to be hell to pay? Tell me what that looks like. And he said, I don't want to tell you, but I can assure you there's going to be hell to pay in the Middle East if they are not returned. Well, look, I want to be very clear about something. I'm no fan of war. War requires not just, of course, those that are currently serving in our military, and I value them and their lives no different than I value my children, my son and my daughter, and their lives. And I don't want to see any life lost before it's God's will. And I mean that wholeheartedly. So if hypothetically we end up in a fight in Panama, we end up in a fight in the Middle East, we end up in a fight with Mexico, we end up in a fight in Canada, I don't even know where to start. I don't know where to stop in terms of my mind thinking and rolling, other than to say, why? Is it really that important that Canada become annexed, become our 51st state, with the prime minister becoming governor? Is it really important that, we retake the Panama Canal? Is it really important, that, yes, the hostages, they need to be returned. They should have been returned a year ago. All right. And this is, again, there's so many issues going on in the world, from Russia now to what happens when China decides to go in and to take Taiwan. Are we going to get involved in that too? I don't know why why people think that this tough talk is better than diplomacy. I think we've already learned over 249 years that diplomacy is certainly better.
When he says, I'm going to unleash hell on Gaza, as though hell hasn't already been unleashed.
Yeah.
On Gaza. Let's be clear. In my view, Cohen absolutely returned the hostages, but I'll just share my own opinion that Netanyahu has handled this in ways that I am not okay with. Would be putting it as a significant understatement, and talking about unleashing hell on a people where there's been hell unleashed already in ways that are unfathomable is something that it should make anybody feel very, very, very uncomfortable. He just wants to start all these wars. But Cohen, here's the thing. Right now, who's benefiting from all of this? Putin, President Xi Jinping and Putin. President Xi Jinping of China, he's got relationships with all of these countries and he's offering them security. So a country like Panama, Xi Jinping is saying, look, I'm going to invest billions of dollars. We've got your back. He's doing that to Honduras, you name it, Central America, South America countries. Xi Jinping is saying, we'll protect you. We've got your back. And so ultimately, with these threats that Donald Trump is a paper tiger and doesn't act on, but the threats are threats that need to be taken seriously, all you're doing is weakening alliances and then not utilizing the threats in ways that do anything. I mean, I think you and I covered this before. President Xi Jinping said, I want to make Japan part of China, and started making posts of himself on buildings in Tokyo with the Chinese flag and started talking about making leaders in Japan members of the CCP. There would be no one who would say, oh, that's just trolling. You would say a conquest is imminent. He's going to take over Japan, and there would be a serious war buildup. The fact that people view Trump's language as even being trolling, to me, is an ultimate sign of weakness, that people are like, yeah, he just says crazy things. I'm with you. It still should be taken seriously.
But my broad taken seriously, Ben. It has to. You know, there are a couple of, I don't know if they're brigaders or trolls. Cohen, why are you taking Trump literally? Why? Because I know him. Because you see, I spent almost a decade and a half by him, not you. And when Donald Trump says that he intends to do something, he will try and then try again and try again in order to accomplish that goal, especially if it benefits him. So why am I taking him literally? Because it came out of his mouth, because it's coming out of the mouths of those that he seeks to have nominated for top cabinet positions. And yes, it's dangerous, but here's another thing that we must all stop. All right. We must all stop doing. There's no need to call Donald Trump a clown. There's no need to call him a fool, a loser, and so on. This doesn't add to the conversation. It detracts from the conversation. What we need to do is to be on the same page, factually accurate and on the same page, so that when things occur, we are all capable of joining into a community like Midas Touch Network, like Political Beatdown, like my Michael Cohen, the Michael Cohen Show on YouTube. We need to be able to join into the community so that we understand what we need to do in order to protect our democratic republic. That's the whole power. When we listen to Adam Schiff, I watched him this morning on television talking about, if Donald Trump tries to do this, we're never going to allow it to happen. Let me be very clear something, Adam. All right? I want to be very clear. You have no fucking power. All right? You don't have the White House, you don't have the Senate, and you don't have the House of Representatives. So how do you think you're stopping Trump with his executive order? Oh, we'll bring a lawsuit to the courts. Oh, yeah, you mean to the courts that Trump is filling with his loyalist attorney judges? Really? How do you think that you're going to stop him? Are you going to rise up at him and you're going to go fight him somewhere in the Oval Office? Seriously? All right. There's only one way within which to win if, in fact, everything goes south. And again, I want to preface it by saying if things go south, the only way is you and me. That's the only way for all of us to use our power at the ballot in order to vote these assholes out, plain and simple, and to put in people, once again, who are like-minded, who believe in our Constitution, who believe in America's power, and who believe in our democratic republic. That is the only way. All of this other bullshit, tough talk that you're hearing from these members, these Democratic members of the House and the Senate, talking about how we will not allow this to happen. Sure, you won't. Sure, sounds great right now. but there's no substance behind it. This network, with its 3.5 million followers and subscribers, and then take my million, whatever it is, in my social media platforms, when we put all of this together, that's a big community. That's a lot of votes, and that's what we need to do in order to make change.
The shot clock has somewhat run out on me here because we got to go to our Zoom meeting right now. I'll just say this, Cohen. I do think, though, that I agree with you that here on the Midas Touch Network, we will continue to build a people-powered pro-democracy network that will get out the word each and every day. I also feel, though, that there still is a role for a sophisticated, robust opposition by Democrats, even if they're not in the majority, to do things that can be productive versus just saying, hey, I guess I can't do anything. We're not the majority party in the House and the Senate. And my example is, you look at the continuing resolution where the Republicans have the House, Republicans have the Senate, but Democrats were needed in order for a continuing resolution to pass, and Democrats utilized their opposition power that they had, even being in the minority, to stop Donald Trump from eliminating the debt ceiling, which would have been a big win for Donald Trump and harmed our country immensely. So to me, there's a concrete example when you go, well, what could Democrats be doing? I still think legislatively there's a role for them. But also, more importantly, there's an importance of messaging and building a community here that fights back. Cohen and I have to go. Make sure you subscribe to Cohen's YouTube channel at The Michael Cohen Show. Make sure you subscribe to patreon.com/Political Beatdown. That's where we're going to go right now to hold our Zoom meeting. It's 2:34. We'll start it in the next 5 minutes. So if you're there and you're like, what's happening? I was going to start. We'll start in the next 5 minutes there. And Mea Culpa. Subscribe to the Mea Culpa audio podcast wherever podcasts are available. The blue one, not the red one. Subscribe to Mea Culpa Blue. And we'll see you in the Zoom meeting, patreon.com/Political Beatdown. Thank you, Brigaders. Thank you, Midas Mighty. Shout out to the Midas Mighty and shout out to the Brigaders.